So there I was, senior year, toward the end of the year, probably springtime or so, sitting in math class, and I just hear this knock at the door. I don't know if you've ever felt like, something was intended for you, but that's how I felt when I heard that knock. I just knew for some reason that it was for me, and that it probably wasn't something good. So lo and behold, it was the vice principal, and I was sitting like close to the door. He basically motioned to me to grab my things and come with him. Leads me down the hallway, he just says, "I know what you've been up to." He takes me into a room, and he says, "You'll be in here for the rest of the day." And I didn't know what that meant. I thought it was detention. So this was a Friday, mind you, and I just thought, maybe I'm in detention. But essentially what I did wrong was I skipped way too many classes, specifically like 10th period. I would just go with my buddy and we'd go play basketball, and we really just didn't care about school that much in general, and I was just kind of over it, ready to be done with senior year. So that's kind of why I was there. But later on, about an hour later, I figured out I was actually in a suspension. So the supervisor of the suspension basically explained that, if you had been put in there on Friday, you'd also be in there a full day Monday. And, you would need something to work on. So if you didn't bring something that day, you need something for the next day. I didn't bring anything because, again, I had no idea where I even was. So I was like, if Monday comes around, I need to have something that is actually gonna intrigue me to kind of pass the time, I guess. I ended up having the idea to get a book, but I didn't want to just get any book, like go to the library and just pick out some random read that, again, I probably wouldn't care about. So I ended up going on Amazon Prime on Saturday, so the next day, and thanks to that quick delivery, I ended up purchasing a book that was an autobiography by the legendary producer Timbaland, called Emperor of Sound. I had already been a fan of Timbaland's work for many years, going back to when I was a young kid, just hearing his songs on the radio. And I had seen that book was, just released, I think the previous winter. He worked with an author to make it. And so I knew it existed. So it was kind of just the first thing that came to mind. I was intrigued with music production, fan of his, and I figured why not have that to be able to read during kind of a unfortunate situation. Now, I don't believe I finished the entire book in one day. I believe it took a couple weeks, but I was able to read a good amount of the first half of the book during that, 7-8 hour period when I was in suspension. And really, it kind of opened my eyes because it showed a lot, especially the early chapters of the book. They show a lot of Timbaland's more vulnerable side. A story in there that specifically sticks out to me is when he was working at a seafood restaurant. I believe he was like the dishwasher or someone that worked in the back kitchen. He's from Virginia Beach, so that's a heavily populated seafood, area of the country. So he talks about that a little bit, but he talks about the fact that he had been working on music even before then. And I think this was like probably his early 20s. And he actually had a instance where he was shot by accident, almost lost his life. And then just going from that to having to learn to not only trust people again, but be able to push through and continue to make music and be creative as well. And really just continue the path of success that he was heading towards, and then ends up becoming who we all know today. And for me, again, that opened my eyes because I was like, if someone like that, of that stature that we all know as this legendary music maker, if he can go through that and still make it to the other side and be doing so well, then why can't any of us do that if we really have the drive and the focus and the passion for what we do? I remember at the end of the school day, I kind of just took some time to reflect on, what had happened for the last few days, from just being pulled out of class, put in that very tough situation, but then kind of flipping it to my advantage by getting this great read, and learning something new. And this really led me to begin producing. This was one of the main catalyst reasons why I started making music myself, and started just a few short months later after I got out of high school. For me, definitely the best experience with ever being suspended or really just facing any school consequences in general, just because I was able to, use that to change the trajectory of my life in general.